Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's something a little different. A set of cyanotype photographs I found in my collection of ephemera. They're inspired by a real place, one with a wild past and a quiet ending. Mineral Park, Arizona. Tucked up in the Cerbat Mountains, Mineral Park got its start around 1870, when folks found or so rich the water couldn't be drunk. They named the place for what it gave. The Mayflower was the first mine. Then came others. In '76, they got a little mill of their own, a 5-stamp rig that changed everything. From then on, it was gold and silver coming out fast. They built stores, saloons, a schoolhouse, even a courthouse. And like all boom towns, it had that rough-edge optimism you see in frontier places. When the county seat moved to Kingman in 1887, it all started to fade. But before that, Mineral Park was full of people chasing fortune in a hard land. That's what these cyanotypes aim to capture. The blues feel like what's left behind, the minerals in the rock, and the memory of a town long gone. Let's take a look. Looking at this image, notice the town's position, tucked deep into the Cerbat Mountains. The wide view gives a good sense of Mineral Park's overall footprint during its most active years. With so much open space around it, the isolation is immediately apparent. It's easy to imagine how self-contained life must have been here. A note on the back states, west end of the town, looking north. Shrooms Peak in the center elevation of 7,000 feet. Shrooms is likely a misspelling of Cherim. This closer view follows the main road cutting through the town. The buildings are plain, utilitarian, clearly built for function over form. There's almost no greenery in sight, which makes sense given the region's dry climate. It also raises the possibility that the mineral-heavy soil affected water quality. This photo really illustrates the basic, frontier nature of the town. Notice this small group of children outside a modest building, likely a schoolhouse. Their varying ages and postures reflect the informal nature of rural education. The note on the reverse side reads, "The Great Unwashed of Mineral Park." Lockwood and Alice being present company are accepted. Alice and Lockwood are featured in other photos in this collection, probably children of the original owners of this collection. This scene indicates the presence of structure and community, even in a place built around hard labor and extraction. Here is a group standing in front of a row of buildings. One seems to be made of adobe-style bricks. The clothing suggests a time frame in the late 1800s. What stands out to me is the informality of the gathering. It looks like a routine day, but it captures a rare glimpse of social life in a very work-focused settlement. This is one of the more substantial buildings I've seen in the set. The faux brickwork and knot on back that states Palace de Campobello implies that the owners had pride in their homestead. Take a closer look at the lady mounted on the horse, husband and child looking on. A second younger female is pushing a child's carriage, perhaps a younger brother or sister. Finally, a mounted woman stands near a carriage or cart. The horses and wagons are consistent with late 19th century transportation. Notice how the mountain in the background dominates the space, reminding me that this town existed within a rugged, imposing environment. This image immediately stands out as industrial. The wooden structure is a head frame, used in mining to lift or to the surface. It's rough and exposed, but that was typical of the period. What I see here is a clear representation of what Mineral Park was built for. A note reads, "Hoist and pump." A closer view shows an operator, a grizzled visage looking 130 years forward into our eyes. The cyanotype format, with its deep shadows, accentuates the starkness of the work and landscape. Here is a man standing with a mule. The landscape around him is rocky and uneven, and there's no obvious sign of mechanization. It's a straightforward image, but it highlights how much of the labor here was manual and how dependent it was on both human and animal endurance. Luckily, a note gives us a good idea of who this important individual is. Old Charlie Gross at his Arasta. This is the old Mexican way of milling free gold, or this old chap took out thousands of dollars in this way from the outcropping in the florist engine house and blacksmith shop in the distance. This is one of the earliest settlers and prospectors in the area, and Gross Mine is cited on maps. If it is accurate that he made thousands in the 1880s, he was definitely a wealthy man for the times. This portrait is more formal. The individuals are wearing their best clothing and posing with horses, probably for a special occasion. Notice the contrast between their polished appearance and the barren backdrop. It gives me a sense of how important these moments of dignity and presentation were, even in a rough setting like Mineral Park. And this woman does display confidence. The husband looks on proudly, recognizing he is fortunate in having such a fine wife and family. Or perhaps he has noted the riding crop his wife is holding. This interior scene catches my attention for its warmth. A family is gathered around a table, lit by lamplight. It's not staged like some portraits. It feels like a genuine moment. As I look closer, I see the small details, curtains, wall hangings, even the posture of the seated figures, all suggesting the creation of a real home, far from urban conveniences. A note on the back states, after supper a success. Another blurry image of this scene states, before dinner a failure. This leads me to believe this is the photographer's family. This is a touching image, a child, possibly in a parent's hat, looking directly at the camera. It's a light-hearted moment, but what strikes me is how much it humanizes the community. Mining towns tend to be viewed through the lens of labor and hardship, but this photo offers a softer, more personal dimension. I'm drawn to the details in this photo. A family seated in what looks like a parlor or sitting room. The furniture, bookshelves, and lamp all suggest a desire to establish culture and order. Despite the rough context of Mineral Park, this photo reveals how much effort went into making life stable and familiar. In this outdoor portrait, a family stands amid desert brush and sparse vegetation. The landscape is unmistakably dry and harsh. Cacti, rocks, bare ground. Yet the subjects look composed, grounded. A partial inscription along the bottom edge hints that this may have been meant as a keepsake or sent to relatives elsewhere. It's a small window into how families claim their place in the landscape. It is also an explanation of who the subjects are in this and other photos. On the bottom front from left to right, Lockwood, Mama, and Sinclair. On the back is the following explanation titled, "The Torture Chamber. Don had to be whipped to keep him still." Sinclair fell into the cactus and ran a few spines into his little finger before he sat down. Lockwood and I almost lost our sight in the sunlight, and even then squinted. Look closely to see if you can find all the animals in the picture. Looking back at overview, I cannot help but think of the lives the people led and what happened to them. Researching Mineral Park gave me the background on the town, but I could not find any information on the family. Perhaps one day I will pass through the area again and do further research. I encourage anyone with information to comment below. So that's the series. Each cyanotype is my way of getting closer to the story of Mineral Park, a town that rose up, then got swallowed by the land it came from. The post office closed for good in 1912, and by the 60s, an open pit mine had taken over the whole site. You can view the marker, but access to the site is apparently restricted, though a landmark sign is located on the highway. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.